Hey everybody, you are listening to, or you're about to listen to, a 10-minute preview of an exclusive episode for our Patreon supporters. Not just any Patreon supporters, our Real Ones supporters, aka people who support us on Patreon for $5 a month or more. If you want to hear the full episode, hey, hit our Patreon at patreon.com/indianspodcast. Support us for $5 a month, and you'll get the full episode. And, if you support us at the lower tier at $1 a month or whatnot, hey, you'll get the first episode as we are making that available to all of our Patreon supporters if you want to hear the first Link and build. But for right now, hear the first 10 minutes of this episode right about now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Indie Heads podcast. Today is a very long-anticipated episode. It is the sequel to Link and Build 2, Spot Infinity. I am your host, Rose, and with me today I have two other friends who were here previously on Link and Build. It's Lily and Max. Hello.
Hello. That was such a pleasant opening. I was really waiting for that to get interrupted by like a fucking like our normal music or a 3 Days Grace clip or something. I was like, there's no way this just plays out, but like, thank goodness it did, because Max and I are both in tender spots now after the gauntlet we subjected ourselves to last night when we recorded the Heavy Bass Distributors episode.
I think if I'd played anything other than a normal clip, I would have been incapacitated for the rest of the episode. I'm like already just a mess.
Yeah. I feel like we escaped our fugue state, and that kind of just gave us a little cradling in this episode. The demons have been excised. And now we get to talk about Big Thief, which is very exciting. Obviously, Lenk and Build 1 was a Dave Grohl playlist I created when I was too drunk at Pitchfork Festival at 4 p.m. And now we're here. LP5 is out, and it was really good, and now we get to talk about it. That's super exciting.
Woo! Yeah. 20 songs. 20 songs. Really just a remarkable thing to get to talk about.
I did discover something new with this album recently, where if you say it, its abbreviation in a certain way, it sounds like Downton Abbey. Here, let me go. Dunim Ibby. And so I've been saying it like that for the last 3 days, and I can't really get it out of my head.
Dunim Ibby.
Not going to get out of mine now. Oh, wow. What a discovery.
Dunim Ibby.
Yeah, we convened on that episode many months ago.
So Max, how was Dune?
Dune was great.
Yeah, that's the first thing we got to follow up on.
Let's get the
cliffhanger of that episode.
All the patrons were waiting on pins and needles. It was really good. Got some loud ass sound. Just rocking my chair. I didn't get to talk about songs much. I don't know if I really had a lot to say about songs. This episode is going to be talking a lot more about Big Thief, though, than Adrianne Lenker's solo stuff, which is kind of exciting. I think there is some untouched ground that we still have to go into.
Yes,
I don't know about how much about their previous discography we'll get into, but of course, a lot of it does help set precedent. The new album, both in how they build on their previous sounds and kind of venture into new territories and break into things that we've never really heard from them before.
Yeah, and to that point, like there was also a lot of ground that we didn't realize was untouched when we recorded that episode, because this album invents like 3 different new kinds of Big Thief song that we did not see coming.
Yeah, like back around the time we were recording the episode, I was like, oh, it's going to be like their new Adventures in Hi-Fi, which is just like a record that kind of spans all the sounds they've ever done. And like, you know, like that's what my imagination was was of this album was a record that kind of, you know, gives you everything that you've heard in Big Thief before, but this like takes so many unprecedented directions that it's hard to really like call it that now. It's very
it splits the difference. It's like half greatest hits of all the stuff that has come before, and then there's a lot of just like entirely new sort of like sound realms that they are broaching into in certain sections of this album. I'm trying to remember what of the singles when we recorded the last episode were out for this. Like we had Little Things and Sparrow.
Well, let me check. It's podcast Lenk and Build.
I believe we recorded in November.
November 28th was when it came out. So
it came out, but we recorded it on the opening night of Dune, which was definitely like late October.
Pitchfork. That'll give me, because they have like news posts for everything.
I think most of the last two singles batches might not have been out yet. The Simswarm wasn't out for sure.
It was anything before the new year, basically, I think.
We had, no. We had up to, wow, okay, I'm glad we looked into this.
No Reason, Spud Infinity, Simulation Swarm, and those were the ones that weren't out.
And yes. Time Escaping. So all we had was Little Things, Sparrow, Certainty, and
Time
Change.
Escaping wasn't out?
No, because we recorded that episode like a month before it came out. So Time Escaping came out in the interim. Jesus. All we had when we recorded that episode in mid to late October was, Little Things, Sparrow, Certainty, and Change, which like feels laughable now as far as what our overall impression of the album must have been at that point.
I feel like No Reason, at least, like No Reason is the only one that didn't really have. Or wait, No Reason wasn't even out. Dang.
No, Reason was one of the last releases.
Yeah, so like all the stuff at that point was just like stuff that felt like at least some precedent in the catalog, I'd argue.
Yeah, totally. Like sure. Little Things was probably the most adventurous one, but like, you know, even that still had precedent in the form of like Not and Jenny. So
we didn't hear like Time Escaping, which is just like the first one. Just like, oh.
Yeah, and Time Escaping was the first single that gave us any sense of like, wait, hold on. Like, what do they're doing this? Mm-hmm. They're doing things like this. Is this going to be a part of the album? And now, even more hilariously, like in the context of the entire album, Time Escaping reads as one of like the less sonically adventurous tracks. Whereas at the time, it felt like there was nothing like this. It's just that, you know, it was the first tier of unprecedented Big Thief song on this album.
Yeah, I played Certainty so much in the fall, and I didn't play Little Things that much, but Time Escaping and Spud Infinity, No Reason. When all those songs came out, I wore the hell out of them. Normally after albums release, after a certain amount of time, like the singles blend in to the rest of the album, and you don't necessarily forget, but like you start to view them as a cohesive thing, and it still hasn't happened for me. I still, especially since the singles in this album are all stacked at the front, it definitely feels like when I play this album, it's, I'm listening to the singles right now, and then the title track's in there, and it's like, ooh. And then you get through Little Things, and then Heavy Ben just kind of hits you. The strings and like the little Kelly Leon's like little choral flourish in there is a great way to kind of like kick your brain into a different gear.
Yeah, I think that's the point. As I said, when we were like doing our first listen, like that was the point where I started like fully soy facing of like, holy crap, like capital W, what are they doing? And from that point on, like each track that did not, only No Reason and Simulation Swarm on the second disc had been released. And so it was just this like constant barrage of left hooks of like, what could possibly come next? Because this album just kind of blows the door open on the fact that Big Thief can, I guess, just do whatever the hell they feel like doing now and get away with it. Like if there was any accusation prior to this that they had like a lane or a set template, it's like, no. Like if they gravitate towards a sound, they have the sufficient songwriting chops and instrumental chops to like absolutely nail that sound.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it later, but like the audacity of like a run like Heavy Ben, Flower Blood, Blurred View, and Red Moon is just like, oh my god, this band could just do anything.
Yeah, and that's what's really wild about this album is I think like even as diehards heading into this album, we all thought we had more or less like a set idea of what Big Thief could do and like what it meant for a Big Thief album to be a Big Thief album, and then there are long stretches of this album that just completely blow that up in your face.